The NFL has a massive identity crisis with this award. It's getting ridiculous. Welcome, everybody, to JJ9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Jared Gary, and I'm representing the 904 from the 602. And today, we are talking about the news that the NFL released their 5 finalists for the Comeback Player of the Year. And folks, this list is bizarre and, quite frankly, insulting to the award and to some of the guys that got snubbed. If you missed it, the final 5 finalists: Damar Hamlin, Joe Flacco, Tua Tagovailoa, Matthew Stafford, and Baker Mayfield. Now, I've got no problem with Damar Hamlin being on the list. He is my pick to win the award. If I was a voter, I would vote for Damar Hamlin. He came back from the dead. We have never seen that before for a player. He just had to take one snap, and he had the award locked up, in my mind at least. Matthew Stafford, no problem with him being on the list. Again, he came back from a season-ending injury. The other 3 I got problems with. Tua came back from concussions, which, I mean, a lot of guys get concussed every year. But Joe Flacco and Baker Mayfield came back from nothing. They just came back from being bad. They didn't suffer injuries. Is this Comeback Player of the Year or Most Improved Player of the Year? Because having them on the list, in my mind, contradicts the purpose of the award. This award has a massive identity crisis. You got half the guys on this list who came back from injuries, and you got half the guys on the list that came back from just being bad the previous year. That defeats the whole purpose of the award. What are we doing here? It's actually insulting that some guys didn't make this final 5 finalist list in favor of Baker Mayfield and Joe Flacco, who once again came back from nothing but just not being that good at football in 2022. Look at John Mitchie. He came back from Hodgkin's lymphoma and played for the Texans. He played a lot of snaps for Houston. Now, if you want to say that Damar Hamlin doesn't deserve it because he barely played and was a healthy scratch, all right, that's one thing. I don't agree with it, but I get it. Well, John Mitchie fits the criteria of he came back from a near-death experience and came back and played football and played pretty much every single game for the Texans and did stuff. He fits that mold like Eric Berry did when he won Comeback Player of the Year a few years ago. You had a guy with cancer that played that fits the criteria. He doesn't make the final 5 over Joe Flacco and Baker Mayfield, who just came back from being bad. Look at Foster Moreau on the Saints. He also had Hodgkin's lymphoma and played. Once again, you got a guy with cancer that played that fits the criteria that the Comeback Player of the Year should be rewarding. But nope, let's not even nominate him. Let's not even acknowledge the courageousness and the tenacity and the toughness that he had so we can award guys who just stunk the previous year. Look, there are enough awards in the NFL that are quarterback-driven. Look at MVP. No non-quarterback has won that award since 2012 with Adrian Peterson. We might not see it happen for a very long time. We don't need to make Comeback Player of the Year a quarterback-driven award. The fact that 4 of the 5 finalists are quarterbacks, when outside of Stafford, none of them came back from anything. Maybe you could argue Tua, but you definitely can't argue Flacco and Mayfield. That is a joke, especially because, look, injury-wise, Breece Hall didn't make this list. How did Breece Hall not make the list for the final 5? He came back from a torn ACL. That's like the most devastating injury for a running back to have. He had about 1,600 yards from scrimmage. That was 4th in the NFL. For a lot of people, he might have been the second best running back in football in 2023. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey being number 1. Breece Hall was phenomenal this year, coming off a torn ACL that a decade ago, you say a running back's got a torn ACL, that's a career killer. And he doesn't even make the list? We got to put Joe Flacco and Baker Mayfield on there? I mean, come on, what are we doing? Most Improved Player, you want to put Mayfield, you want to put Flacco? Fine, you need a Most Improved Player award because you cannot have these guys on Comeback Player of the Year. Is Comeback Player of the Year about rewarding guys that came back from catastrophic injuries, from near-death experiences, or is it about rewarding guys that just were not good the previous year? I didn't like when Geno Smith won the award last year. I don't like the finalists this year, the fact that 4 of the 5 are quarterbacks, and 3 of the 5, definitely 2 of the 5, do not deserve to be here on the list in the slightest bit. My 5 finalists, if I was the one in charge, would be Damar Hamlin, Matthew Stafford, John Mitchie, Foster Moreau, and Breece Hall. I would definitely not have Joe Flacco there, definitely not have Baker Mayfield on there, and definitely would not have Tua on there as well. I don't want this being a quarterback award like every other award in the NFL is. It doesn't matter what position you play. Comeback Player of the Year should be about just coming back from a near-death experience or a catastrophic injury. It should not be a position-based, quarterback-driven award. And the fact that it is trending that way, it seems like with Geno Smith winning it last year from coming back from nothing, and now 4 of the 5 finalists being quarterbacks this year, is a complete joke in my mind. But what are your thoughts? Do you like the Comeback Player of the Year award? Do you think that it should be tweaked? Think it should be changed in the slightest bit? Do you like the 5 finalists? Do you think they got it right? Do you think we got it wrong? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And that's going to do it for this episode of JG9 News. Be sure to like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out my main channel, Jaguar9, where we talk all things NFL history all the time. Until next time, Jaguar9 signing off. And as always, go Jags.